Welcome back. This is Gail Snodgrass with Great Living Sources YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about readiness and self-reliance. Now I know I've talked about this before, and it came to my attention that perhaps my thoughts on how one should be prepared and one should be ready and the resources that they need. So I want to talk about that. I want to address that today. At the end, I also want to talk about courage because I've heard some talk on some other things that uh, about what courage really is and stuff. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on what I think and how I perceive um, what that is. So if you've listened to more than one of these YouTubes, then you know that my thoughts on readiness versus preparedness. Um, to me, being ready means that I'm where I'm at, how I am right now, and something happens, I'm ready. Okay. Now, self-reliance is, well, first off, let's do preparedness. Preparedness means that it typically is translated into um, I'm going to buy a bunch of stuff and store it up, um, and then something happens, then I use that stuff. Okay. Um, being prepared is oftentimes done because somebody's afraid. You're afraid something's going to happen, the world's going to end, whatever. Those are possibilities. Things are going to happen. The point that I'm trying to get up, or the part that I'm trying to get across, is to not be afraid that it's going to happen. I know stuff is going to happen. I don't have to be afraid of it because I know it's going to happen. So, what can I do to ensure that if something does happen, that I'm going to make it through there as best I can? That's where being ready is. So, being ready is whatever happens, I'm going to deal with it. Um, having a lot of stuff is, or having resources and supplies is important, um, especially if you look at the diagram that's on the front of this video. I kind of put this together and I've been kind of toying with this, and I want to make sure that people understand what I'm trying to really say. So if you look at that diagram, you'll see dependent or reliant is on the left, and self-reliance and independence is on the right. Okay, and then you'll see two shapes that graduate from thin on the top to big on the right, and then you see the reverse. You see big on the left and little on the right. Okay, so basically in between, and you'll see the point where it says normal times. During normal times, we should be somewhere in that middle portion. Okay, because as I've said before, even the wild and woolly West, um, they were dependent on outside resources. Mountain men were probably the most independent people on the planet. Were reliant on some outside resources. The pioneers that came across, they were reliant on somebody. Okay, so there is a kind of a medium, a balance, if you will, as in with the core calm, to be self-reliant and being dependent. Okay, for example, at this present time, I don't have an anvil, so blacksmithing is going to be a challenge. If something happened and I had to, then I would find those items that would assist me in becoming, doing my own blacksmith stuff. Or a better idea is to find somebody who is already a blacksmith, and then they become the blacksmith for your group. Okay, so having items stored is a good thing. In fact, you should have a certain amount of items. As we've talked about in some previous YouTube posts, I know that there's a plethora of those things out there right now. 6-month grid down. The government has finally changed its stance and said, hey, you need to have at least 6 months worth of stuff. Kudos to the government for saying that, and kudos for those who are prepared for at least 6 months or longer. Okay. When I talk about, being able to live off the land, that's a skill that's going to help you to become self-reliant. Okay. Now, not everybody is there yet. Okay. Just as that diagram shows, dependent and self-reliant applies to everything, not just physical supplies, whether it's medical supplies, food supplies, water supplies, skills, everything. Everything is on that scale. So, and you can kind of see where you are. Think about where you are on that scale in respect to all of the things that you need in order to survive. Okay, my soapbox is to have a written plan. So when you create that written plan, you evaluate. One of the things that you're supposed to do is to evaluate yourself. So you evaluate, or your group, or both. So you evaluate what items you're going to need to get through a particular crisis that plan is for. And again, the basics can apply to several different plans. The part that's going to change will be the actions that you would take before, during, and after the specific event. As I've said before, some actions would apply for several different events. Okay, but there are some events that actions will be different. For example, if you're in a true stuff has hit the fan, end of the world kind of event that, as we know it, has occurred, security is going to be a lot different than it would be under a snowstorm or a flood. Okay, specifically a snowstorm, because in a snowstorm, there's not going to be a lot of looting, theft, chaos out in the streets because A, it's too cold, and B, nobody can move because it's, snow packed. So there are some actions that are going to change depending on the event itself, and that's really the biggest thing. But back to the plan. So we've evaluated what it is that we're going to need: food, water, supplies, tools, equipment, flashlights, batteries, all of the plethora of things that we talk about. And, as I've passed out before, and if you would like one, you can email me or comment and leave me your email address, and I will send you a free checklist. Or you can download the free checklist. It should be in the comment section below. And in that checklist, it's a pretty comprehensive checklist of stuff that you should think about, contemplate, make sure that you have on hand. You need to have a certain amount of supplies. Okay. So, for example, let's say tomorrow something happens that completely changes the world as we know it. Economic collapse occurs, grid goes down, whatever. Something happens to cause a complete and utter collapse of the world as we know it. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that I'm not going to be going to the grocery store to buy groceries anymore because they aren't there, or they don't have anything, or they become so expensive that I cannot or will not pay the price to get them. And then if you're Christian, the Bible talks about um, towards the tribulation time period that you won't be able to get anything if you don't have a mark in your forehead or on your hand. That would be a situation in which the price of getting those items would be too much. So you would have to become self-reliant, but you're still going to have to get there. So if something happened tomorrow that altered the world as we know it, in which we cannot go out and purchase things that we need to live as we do today, then it has to be, you're going to have a grace period, if you will, in which you can live off of the supplies that you have until you can begin to grow your own, or be able to hunt your own, or trap your own, or however you're going to get the food. Okay. Same is true with water. You're going to have water on hand in order to drink, and to cook with, and to bathe with, and to clean with, until you can find a source and you can start to purify your own water and are able to store that water. So if I have came across as, you don't need any supplies, just, you'll be able to make it. It's not quite what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is you do need to have a portion of, you have to have at least a certain amount of supplies to carry you through until you can reach that point in which you can grow your own, raise your own food, make and grow or fix your own shelter, find and purify your own water. All of the things that you're going to need to basically live. Okay. When I have said this in the past, and I've talked about, not needing stuff, or that I don't have, 10 years worth of food. What I really am telling you is that I have the balance in my head and in my heart that when something happens, even if I don't have everything that I think that I might possibly need, because I can't afford it or whatever, it doesn't mean that I don't need to have some items. I mean, I have food now, even in this apartment, I still have stuff squirreled away for that quote unquote rainy day. In fact, I'll give you an example. When I moved to Kentucky, things, my pay changed a lot. So I don't have all the extra income that I used to have. But, we had stuff that we had already stored, which I brought with us here for the most part. Some of it's still in storage. But a lot of that stuff I brought with us, and a lot of that I've used here to rotate through. Okay. So the things that you buy for your supplies are things that you use now. It's not just like the plan that I tell you, this written plan that you should have is not a document that you put in a glass case and then put the words, break in case of emergency. That's not the intent of that thing. That should be the most worn out document that you've ever had in your life, okay? Because that plan is what's going to help you to get through whatever the crisis is. If not you, those that are with you, okay? None of us know what's going to happen. Even, what we do know, or what I do know, or what I've accepted, is that you don't leave this planet with what with alive. You basically leave with what you came in with, pretty much nothing. So I know that bothers some people. I've got family and friends that have a hard time with that. And like I said in another video, in my time in the war, I came to the realization that, if that's going to happen, it's going to happen. As I think I talked about it in one of my other videos, but when I was 13, I was hit by a car and almost died 3 times, or was told that I either did die or almost died 3 times. Personally, I don't remember any of it. I remember waking up about 10 days later in the hospital with my leg in traction, and I can only tell you what was told to me. But one of the serious injuries, I guess, was that supposedly there was a punctured lung. So my assumption is that whatever reason, God chose not to take me out at that time, and it wasn't my time. So when it is my time, it's my time. And, there's nothing that I can do to prevent that. So don't get caught up with all of that stuff. What you need to focus on right now is to be ready and work towards becoming as self-reliant as you can. Again, the portion in the middle is the part that is basically your normal time, like today. If today's times can be considered normal. But, right now, we go out, we go to the grocery store, or however often you go to the grocery store. Some people go once a month, some people go a couple times a month, some people go once a week, some people go every day. I know folks in Europe that basically stop on their way home from work and pick up whatever they're going to eat for that day. Now, that's totally foreign to me. I didn't grow up that way. We used to go, I don't know, a couple times a month maybe. But, having at least enough stuff to get you through the event itself, which is what the supplies are for. It doesn't have to be into the world as we know it. It doesn't have to be stuff has hit the fan. It doesn't have to be the most catastrophic, fireball from heaven that takes out half the planet. It doesn't have to be any of those things. As we talked about in the last video, it could be a series of events that occur. Whatever happens, it may even not be a series of global events or even local events. It could be you get laid off of work for a couple of weeks, where you don't have any funds or not enough funds to go purchase the things. Then you can, you at least have, a certain amount of time. I always recommend a minimum of 2 months to start. But, as DHS in the report has stated, they recommend at least 6 months. If you can get more than that, it's even better. Okay, so at least have a month or 2 worth of food and water stored up that you rotate through, and it's, I won't say easy, but it is doable. You go to the grocery store and you're trying to get more ahead. You have, say, 2 months worth of stuff stored up, or let's just start with 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks worth of food right now. You've used a can of green beans and corn and whatever, and so you need to buy some more. So instead of buying 1 can, you buy 2. Okay? When you find them on sale, you buy 3. It's 3 for $1 or whatever. I don't know if that's possible. I don't go to the store much. My wife does that, but and I only go with a list. So, but the point is, if you have whatever you have now, you got to get more. Buy 1 or 2 extra items every time that you go to the store. Eventually, you will get to the point where you have 2 months. You continue, and you get to the point where you have 6 months to a year. Okay, you don't have to go out and buy a year's worth of stuff and try to figure out where you're going to store it. Okay, but and it doesn't matter if you live in an apartment, a townhouse, a condo, a single-family dwelling. Live in the city or live in the country. You can find places to store stuff. You just have to be creative. Some of the places that I've seen stuff, and I've stored stuff, is under the beds. You can buy those containers that will fit under the beds. You can store stuff in there and slip it under. You can slip it into a tote and put it into a closet someplace. There's places that you can do things. It's just a matter of actually thinking it through and doing it. But that all goes to the plan. Having a plan and thinking rationally, logically, methodically through all the different things that you're going to need, and then finding collecting those things and putting them up. Okay, there's ways to do it. It's just a question of, are you committed enough to do that? Okay, some folks aren't, and I hate to say it, but those will be the ones that will probably have the toughest row to hoe, because they're not going to be ready. Because being committed is also part of that being balanced part. Understanding that you need to have these items, understanding that you need to have certain skills, whether it's as an individual, as a family, as a community, as a group, as a whatever, it doesn't matter. Somebody needs to be able to do some of the basic skills. You need to be able to start a fire. You need to be able to collect firewood and cut firewood. You need to build a shelter. You need to find water and purify water. You need to be able to grow things. You need to be able to build tools to help you grow things. Is it easy? Probably not. Is it convenient? No, it isn't. It is not convenient, to say the least. Is it worth it in the end if you know that those that you care about are going to have the items, the things, the resources that they need to be able to live, not just exist? Survive, in my opinion, is basically eking out an existence. Existing is not why I have no doubt that that's not the purpose of why we are here. It's a whole different video for another time. But understand that you need to have at least a certain amount of supplies, which includes food, water, tools, to get through any type of a situation, whatever it is. Okay? Now, do you need weapons? My opinion, yes. Unfortunately, the humankind of today has kind of forgotten the golden rule of the Bible, which is do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Which doesn't mean that you go out and do mischief and mayhem because that's what you want people to do to you. That's not what that means. It means that you respect those folks and treat them as you would, another family member. Okay, so I think you need a weapon. There's different ones out there. For the most part, I would recommend, first and foremost, some kind of a tactical shotgun. I like the Remington 570. It's a pump shotgun, holds like about 7 shells. The good thing about those is almost inevitably, if somebody is trying to break into your dwelling, your house, your shelter, whatever, and they hear that chunk of the shotgun shell being loaded into the chamber, that's about 95% of the time they're going to back away, okay? Because most criminals are cowards. They don't. That's the reason why they're always running in a pack or a gang, because they don't want to be singled out. They don't want to die. So they, that chunk sound is going to put folks to moving away from you. Find somebody that's not as ready, not as intent on protecting their stuff as you are. The other thing about a shotgun, especially the tactical shotgun, is the range. It has a good range for short distances, 50, 100 feet. So if you live like in an apartment or whatever, then you don't have to worry about so much depending on the shell. If you get like the number 9 bird shot or 7 shot, then the pellets will not penetrate into the next apartment. So it's a lot safer for those living around you. It's just my opinion. You can do what you want. If you're in the country, then you want something that has a little more range. Like I've said before, I want to be like AT&T, reach out and touch them. You're going to want some kind of a rifle. AR-15, 30-30, 30-06. Those are all, decent rifles. I prefer level action rifles versus bolt actions. It's easier to be able to fire faster usually. AR-15s, they're single shot. Copies of the M16, which is what I carried pretty much my whole military career. The thing I like about those two is you don't have to reload as often because they come with 10 to 30 round magazines. So there's a whole lot, and there's going to be gun nuts out there that like my brother and my nephews who they've got all kinds of weapons. So it just depends on what you want. You want something that you can protect yourself with. But when push comes to shove, almost anything can be turned into a weapon. Humans were killing long before they had a gun. Bows and arrows, spears, rocks, clubs, frying pans. I'm pretty sure there's probably been a few men that have been taken out by a woman in a frying pan. A lot of it goes back to being balanced, that coral calm that we talk about, being ready to do what you need to do in order to live through whatever the circumstances that you may face, okay? Not only for you to live through, but you to help your friends and your family and loved ones to be able to live through that as well, okay? Having that written plan enables them to carry on even if something should happen to you, okay? So now I want to talk about courage. I kind of talked about or hit on it a little bit with the criminal element. Criminals, like I said, they usually run in packs. They usually run gangs or mafia or whatever you want to call them. But that's you can't always assume that that's the case. But for me, courage is not meaning that you are fearless. Okay, I am not fearless. I'm not even sure if I would consider myself courageous. I have fears, yes, but courage is doing what you need to do, even though you are afraid. Okay, so Um, Pretty much, I don't know if there may be circumstances in which, my courage would run away and I wouldn't be able to hang out. I don't know that I can think of something off the top of my head. Um, I can assure you, if somebody is after those that I care about, I am going to do my level best um, to take them out first. So, um, and I almost don't think it's going to matter who it is. So, um, but it's also courage is also doing the right thing. It's where the integrity comes in. Um, Integrity, in my opinion, in my definition, is doing what needs to be done or doing the right thing, even when nobody's looking. Okay, and it's going to be hard in times of trouble that we may be facing here soon. Um, I know a lot of the folks that I listen to on YouTube. I've thought it for a long time. Um, we're heading for some hard times, and I mean biblical hard times. So I start to see now others who have started talking about it. Now, what their intent with all that is, I don't know. My intent is to help folks to be ready for it. And again, it goes back to the core calm, spiritually, mentally, and physically ready. Okay? So being of courage is not, it does not mean that we are fearless, nor should you be reckless, you know. You've seen in old Western movies, guys going out being called out. That's much. That's stupid. Um, that's pride going out there, and that's not being smart. Okay. Um, Again, if we're balanced, if we put that pride aside and we pay attention to what we need to do, that's being courageous. Um, Courageous may also mean having to tell somebody that they can't stay in the group, because the group protection is, I won't say more important, but it is. Good question. How to explain that? There are some folks that their morals and their integrity have been tainted. In fact, a lot of people have. That's what a lot of the stuff that we've been programming our children to do, and it is now coming home to roost. So there are some folks that just will not fit into the group, okay? And for the benefit of the group, they cannot stay. Now, there's probably other groups that they would fit in with. That's fine. My book, Return to Life, I know I've talked about this before, but as I was writing that book, it occurred to me that not everybody's going to fit in that group, okay? Some very specific occupation people will not fit into that group. And if you've read the book, then you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you can take a look at it if you would like. But folks that want something for nothing, that want people to do things for them, that they do not want to become self-reliant, that do not want to help to take care of themselves, whatever it is. Folks that abuse other people, especially children. Anybody that abuses a child, in my mind, is probably the lowest form of life on this planet. And I will do my absolute best to help them to the next life. I have no compassion for people who would hurt a child in any form, whether it's abuse of any kind. So, so being courageous is doing the things that you know need to be done, even though you may be scared, even though the fear may be, shaking you to the very foundation of yourself. That's what being courageous is in my mind. It's not a hero. It's not me. I'm not a hero. I don't claim to be a hero. I am somebody that will do what I think needs to be done when it needs to be done, no matter how hard that decision might be. So that's my thoughts on courage. Again, I thank you for stopping by, for watching my video. I hope it helps, as you continue your path to being ready and to becoming self-reliant. If you have a question, a comment, please leave it below in the comment section. Email me at guy@greatlivingsources.com. Go to the website, www.greatlivingsources.com. There's a blog tab that has some articles that we've published and put out. We also have a shop on there. You can check out some of the plans, some of the things that we have to offer. You can contact me on Facebook under GL Sky or under Great Living Sources. Both are my pages. My prayer for you is that you will do the things that you need to do in order to take care of yourself and those that you care about. Okay, so if you have any questions on creating your own plan, or if you would like us to do a plan for you, contact us, let us know. Be glad to help. That's what I want to do. So till tomorrow, and again, if you have any topics that you would like to hear discussed or that we can maybe assist with, drop us a note, let us know, and we will definitely try to get them on here, okay? So until the next time, I wish you guys all the best, and remember the core calm. Thank you.